Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And we're going to be talking about something a little bit close to home today. We're going to be talking about a lawsuit between Triller and anyone who pirated their recent fight between Jake Paul and Ben Askren. The reason I say this is close to home is because one of the defendants in this lawsuit is reportedly, and everything I'm saying here today is based on what I have seen so far. Please, just as I tell you often, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not that educated. I'm also not that informed. I'm not a journalist. I literally am just making conversation. Please take it in that vein. Ethan Klein from H3H3 Productions, the H3 podcast, is one of the defendants. He is being included in this suit, both as someone who pirated the fight, as well as someone who distributed that fight. And we're going to be talking about both of those things. So before we jump into it, please, we want to know what you think. Please leave a like on this video here today. Please comment in the chat. Leave us a comment on the video. Please super chat any questions or comments. I especially need your input today more than ever, since as you can see, this is a solo episode and I have no co-host to hand the mic over to at any point. Also, please consider becoming an Ayn Rand Center UK member for exclusive content, study groups, and the ability to help this thing grow so we can better understand what the hell is happening in this crazy world. Link in the chat room posted by Ayn Rand Center UK. Just do it. Come on. Who cares? All right. So Triller is the fight entertainment company, I guess. They are the ones who organized and distributed the recent fight between Jake Paul, YouTuber Jake Paul, and Ben Askren, again, close to home because a bunch of YouTubers are involved here, right? That's why I say this is close to home. But I mean, this is also going to raise topics that I think apply to me and as well to many of you and really all of us here on the internet about intellectual property and what it all means in context. Triller have, from what I've seen, decided to, first of all, sue the websites, you know, those shady websites that basically make movies and events and music available for free. Triller is going to sue them. So I'm guessing for a lot of money, because if like millions of people watch this fight illegally, that's going to be a big lawsuit against a handful of websites that, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. I think, maybe a lawyer who's more focused on privacy might have a lot of questions about this lawsuit that I'm not necessarily thinking about. I'm more focused on the intellectual property aspect of it, but obviously privacy is a thing. And I'm wondering what's going to surface on the topic of privacy because of the way that this lawsuit is going to basically, you know, be sequestering. They're going to be demanding, I assume, that these websites, share their information. And who are they? Where are they? How are they getting this content? Who did they distribute it to? Subpoena maybe is the word. I don't know. But another aspect to the privacy element of all this is that that Triller, the company, is going to be suing or threatening to sue consumers who consumed this fight illegally. Now, how do they know? They say even if you used a VPN, every stream of this fight has a special fingerprint, a subtle little fingerprint that's invisible to the naked eye, but we see it, we know it. And anyone who basically consumed this fight by illegal means, says Triller, has an opportunity now to pay $50, the pay-per-view cost, before I think June 1st. And if you don't, you're facing 150 grand in a civil fee, you know, civil fee. You know those little FBI warnings at the beginning of DVDs and VHS tapes and all of it, the beginning of all types of movies and stuff. FBI warning saying face up to 5 years in prison and $150,000. Yeah, they're going for the $150, folks, if you don't pay the fee. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see. Thank you, Marilyn, for the $5 super chat. Can we get to $6, by the way? I'm curious. I'm not that hopeful because, you know, times are tough, but if we can get to $6, that would be pretty insane. So it'd be interesting to see, are people going to start voluntarily paying this pay-per-view cost, or are people just going to kind of sit back and say, let them come after all of us? What are they going to do? I don't have 150 grand. What are they going to do? It'll be interesting to see what comes of that. So this is an historical moment, I think, because of, first of all, the aggression with which the company Triller is going after pirate websites. I don't know if this has ever been done this way, but also the fact they're going after consumers, I think, is unprecedented. I think there have been consumers in the past who got in trouble for pirating, but it was done very randomly and sporadically over the last 20 years. So it's almost like getting struck by lightning, as far as I'm aware. But now Triller is saying, hey, guys, pirate party is over. If you bootlegged this fight, we know that you bootlegged it. We know you stole it. We know who you are, and you are going to pay one way or the other. Now, Ethan Klein, who is most known for H3 Productions, a YouTube channel, and in more recent years, a podcast, the H3 podcast, very successful podcast. He is apparently being included in this both as, well, I think basically as someone who distributed this fight. So the first sort of the first, like the point about pirating, he definitely pirated, which he admitted to. So let's let him speak for himself here. I'm going to share my screen with you here real quick. 1 second. And let's see what Ethan says.
Why the ref called it? I just found that the obscene.
You know what?
I waited
I felt that
fucking long for that.
You watched?
I watched the whole. I bootlegged it. I pirated it.
So, first of all, I hate the casual way with which people talk about pirating. I know this has been the case for a long time. There's a lot to get into there, which I'll try to touch upon. But I mean, just look at how like he's like, oh no, I didn't pay for it. Like it would be more embarrassing for him to have paid rightfully for this content. That would be an embarrassment, right? And you saw this all over Twitter the night of the fight. All these different people, like Philip DeFranco, going, "My prayers if you actually paid to see this." And Phil tries to be the adult in the room all the time. He's supposed to be the guy who grew up. He's not silly little sexy Phil anymore. No. He's mature dad Phil now, right? He's still the same D-bag as he always was. And you see it on instances like this. And with Ethan here going, oh no, I pirated it. Like, please don't think I'm uncool enough to pay for a Jake Paul fight. Very dishonorable, very just very and what else? Dishonorable, just unadmirable, I think is the word I'm looking for. I have very, very low respect for people like Ethan Klein. But the good thing is we don't actually know if that's Ethan. So I would tell the lawyers and the courts, that could be anyone. That green-faced guy, that could have been Jim Carrey, right? You ever see The Mask? That could have been him right there, as far as I know. So maybe Ethan will be able to get out of the $50 pay-per-view charge that he'll be required to pay. Thank you, CJ, for the $2 Canadian, and Bread Sandwich for the $1 Canadian. We are making a lot of Canadian money today, which is about the same as, being down on your luck and broke in America. Of course, I'm joking. For all I know, Canadian money is worth more than regular money. So, but I think the more shocking part of the news is that they're suing. They are reportedly, and this is according to articles, I think Reuters said this, or I think the statement coming out of Triller is what makes this seemingly real, is that Triller is saying among the people they're suing is the H3 podcast for distribution. Now, the extent to which they distributed the fight is that they had a recent episode called something like "The Jake Paul Fight Was a Disaster." I think that's the name of the episode. And somewhere in that 2-hour or so episode, Ethan, the host, plays like a clip of the fight from an unlisted YouTube link. So clearly it had been in an unauthorized way downloaded from somewhere and posted onto YouTube in an unlisted way. And now, just so he could comment on it, he was playing a clip of it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Now, Ethan has bad luck when it comes to this stuff. He was sued in the past by a fellow YouTuber. This was a landmark case because Ethan and his wife reacted to a YouTube video by some, self-identified sort of pickup artist. Some guy made some video about like how to talk to women, works every time, how women will not be able to resist you. And it's like this very cringeworthy sort of scripted skit where some YouTube guy is like talking to a girl and, he's giving her game right back and she's giving him attitude, but he's, doubling down on her attitude and negging, as they call it, like as in negative. He's showing her that she's not as hot as she thinks. So I don't know, just very cringeworthy pickup artist content on YouTube. Unless you're Nikos. If you're Nikos, you're probably watching it and taking notes. This guy is good. I'm joking. I swear to God, I'm joking. Please take that as a joke. Anyway, so point being, Ethan and his wife reacted to that video on their own channel around 2015 or 2016 or so. They did a reaction video, but a commentary reaction video. They didn't simply watch the video and then end it. They paused it. They commented on it. I mean, we see this all the time. We might do it here on this show, although we haven't physically done this. But you've seen Yaron Brook reply to a TED Talk, for instance, just to name someone that a lot of us have watched. He replies to a TED Talk, right? The white fragility lady is talking on TED Talk YouTube channel or TED.com, and Yaron is pausing it, or Tucker Carlson, he's pausing it, commenting on it. Clearly, he's commenting on it. So he's not literally broadcasting Tucker Carlson on his YouTube channel as a substitute for getting Fox News. And that's what the judge said in Ethan Klein's lawsuit. So Ethan and his wife were at the receiving end of a lawsuit by another YouTuber who said that they, violated his copyright by reacting to his video the way they did on their channel. And Ethan chose to fight it. I mean, I'm guessing he could have cut the guy a check and settled, but him and his wife made it a landmark case for YouTubers everywhere. And as much as I'm not a fan of Ethan, as much as I think he has shown poor character in various cases, such as the clip we just saw, got to hand it to him. He stood his ground on this particular case where he was in the right. Again, I'm not a legal scholar. I respect legal philosophy. I respect that there are centuries of disciplined intellectuals approaching these topics and carefully figuring out what it all means. I respect all that. But as far as I can understand, Ethan Klein was in the right. And the judge's verdict is that what Ethan and his wife did by reacting to the video they did is not a market substitute. That's the phrase that stuck with me. It's not a market substitute for the real thing, for the original video. So Ethan did not just take some guy's video and upload it to his own channel as though, you can watch this legitimately, or you can just watch it with me. He did not do that. So similarly, if I take a Star Wars movie and I just broadcast it at my own theater and let people watch it for free, or charge them a little bit less money than a theater would charge, obviously that is a market substitute for going to the movies and watching Star Wars. However, if I play a short clip of Star Wars in order to comment on it or to dub over it, which people have done, like there was a famous meme like 10 years ago where it's from a movie scene where Hitler finds out he's losing and you see him have his meltdown. And a lot of people on YouTube, they would dub over it and they'd call it like Hitler finds out that his favorite soccer team just lost, or Hitler finds out Justin Bieber has a new album coming out, whatever it is. And they would add subtitles that would correspond to that alternate version of Hitler finds out something. So what happened in that case actually is it got so popular, that meme got so big that the owner of that movie ended up telling YouTube, take these down. This is changing how people look at my movie. Like the meme is bigger than the movie at this point. And YouTube said, you're right. And they scrubbed that meme from YouTube. So there's an example of how a transformative meme ends up actually being considered a violation of somebody's intellectual property. But nonetheless, the difference between transforming something / commenting on it needs to be properly seen, I think. So when the internet first happened, when social media first happened, when I was 18, 19, I was looking at, the birth of memes and people distributing pictures and stuff. I wondered, how would objectivists feel about this? I had never met one, but I knew objectivists existed. I wondered, would objectivists just refrain from the internet altogether, or would they reject the idea of memes because they're a violation of intellectual property? And I think the answer is it really depends, and there's a lot of context to consider. So like I saw an objectivist lecture once about religion, and the lecturer included a meme of Bill O'Reilly over some colorful background saying, you can't explain that. The tides come in at night. Like, you can't explain that. A big meme that went around. And I was thinking like, oh, so this objectivist is okay with taking a picture that was taken with Fox News's camera and distributing it to his audience here in a way that does not, is not authorized by Fox News or Bill O'Reilly. And I think the answer is it's transformative, and it is not a market substitute. So what the speaker was not doing is he was not just simply broadcasting the O'Reilly factor and saying, don't worry about getting cable, we'll just watch it for free here. That's, I think, the main difference. And so a more libertarian approach to property rights, and I know a lot of libertarians have a very hard time recognizing intellectual property as such, but the way some of them might look at just regular, location property like a house, you're not unlikely to hear a certain libertarian say, let's say, if you accidentally step on my lawn, I can blow your head off with my gun. Who do you think you're most likely to hear say something like that? Probably a libertarian who thinks, I'm so principled about property rights that if you accidentally step, or if you even intentionally step one toe on my property, I can kill you in self-defense, because that's property. That's property. Or a libertarian, again, not all libertarians. Many libertarians are very sophisticated and very learned, and there's many different types of libertarians, but I'm speaking about a certain type who might say, I can buy the property, the space right in front of your front door and build a wall if I want to. And so you can't leave your house. Well, it's my property. Or I can walk next to you all day when you leave your house. I can walk next to you and hold up the most gross pornography on earth right in front of your face. And you can't do anything. No, don't initiate force against me. You can't do anything, right? So the difference between the objectivist view of property is obviously contextual. There is such a thing as right of easement. You have a right to enter and leave your front door because the purpose of that property and of that door is to be able to exit and enter it. So when it comes to intellectual property, I think the question that comes up is, what was the purpose of producing this thing? So if a movie or a boxing fight was produced, the purpose of it was to be distributed by certain means, either by people buying it or renting it by some approved, authorized manner. That's the purpose of them producing that fight, of them, taping and broadcasting it. And when somebody makes it available illegally or they download it illegally, they are in violation of that intended purpose of producing it. See what I'm saying? It's not always a question of was it literally downloaded or was it literally reproduced. In some cases, reproducing something could be legitimate if it's, let's say, for commentary purposes or transformed in a way that is not any longer a market substitute for the original thing. So interestingly enough, now Ethan Klein is becoming the poster child for YouTube lawsuits. First, he was at the defending end of a lawsuit where he was being sued for, I think, legitimately reproducing a video in order to comment on it, and he won, and I think rightfully so. Now he's being apparently sued for the bad kind of reproduction. Here's the thing. He's bragging about pirating it, which, he can go to hell for that. But I think to the extent he did reproduce the fight, he played a clip of it on his podcast in order to comment on it. So in all likelihood, even what he did on his podcast is probably in the clear, although the way he acquired the fight might be illegitimate, but the way he is broadcasting it might protect him from a world of hurt. So it's interesting to see how this goes. Sadly, these things are not settled simply. Like he's got a lot of legal expenses ahead of him if this thing does happen, if he does get sued the way he says. A lot of legal expenses, a lot of strife ahead of him if this does happen, just in order to prove that he did not distribute the fight as a market substitute for purchasing it. So, you know, I both dislike Ethan, the way he's, sort of casually bragging about pirating the fight, but also, you know, I don't think he was broadcasting it on his channel the way he's being accused of in this apparent lawsuit. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Thank you, Hugh, for £9.99 says, but what if Ethan used YouTube Premium, therefore not necessarily giving ad money to said uploader? Clipping out clips is not the same as pirating. In my opinion, I'm sure Alan Dershowitz can help. What if Ethan used YouTube Premium, therefore not necessarily giving ad money to said uploader? I don't know, but I mean, YouTube Red benefits creators just as ads do. YouTube Red pays YouTubers more than ads do. So if you're a YouTuber, you want people to sign up for YouTube Red and watch your video more than you want ads on your video. I'm not entirely clear what you is asking, but good thing it's not really my job to answer that question. Marialine with $5 says, in the past, a few people have asked to burn copies of my CDs. They really don't get it when I say no. Now, this brings up the topic, which I wanted to get to, and we're going to get to now. So piracy on the internet has been a thing, obviously, forever, as long as there's been an internet. And I'm of a certain age where, right as I was developing a passion for music, is when music became basically readily available for easy pirating. And some musicians and record labels were very outspoken against it. But unfortunately, some musicians like the Foo Fighters and The Offspring and other artists, they were like, hey, it's not a big deal. Yeah, Napster is great. Let people pirate. But it was never their right to say that. It was, if the Foo Fighters want to make their own album available for free, that's obviously within their rights if their record label agrees to it. But they were never in a position to say, go ahead and pirate everyone else's music as well. We need to be very critical in our thinking. Thank you, CJ, for the $5 Canadian. Says, I don't think getting shamed for paying for the fight was about pirating. I think it was more about the fight was less than 2 minutes and probably staged. Well, it wasn't probably staged, but either way, I mean, the idea that like that he pirated it and he's just like, oh, no, don't worry, I pirated it. So yeah, maybe it wasn't necessarily about Jake Paul. But anyway, if he was pirating it live, he didn't know it would only be 2 minutes long. Whenever you go watch a fight, you know, it could end in 1 minute or it could go on overtime. So no, I think you're a little bit missing the point there. But thank you for the super chats, guys. So yes, so piracy became a big thing right as the internet got fast, as file sharing became possible. And you know, unfortunately, I saw it as a great opportunity when I was, 12, 13 years old. Ended up getting a bunch of viruses on the computer, which tends to happen. But the real virus was much deeper than on the computer. It hurts you in a way that you can't quite put a price tag on. You can't quite convince somebody of, So yeah, people sneer at me. They cackle at me. They call me a sucker when I talk about a topic like this. Of course you should pirate. What do you feel bad for the corporations? You're only hurting yourself. This thing, it hurts your soul. It hurts your self-esteem. I mean, I was once talking to a musician who he was trying to get started on producing music in his own house, in his own studio. And he was talking about software for producing music. And he was like, yeah, I could probably, just crack it. I could probably pirate it. And I said, like, I don't go out looking for arguments or trying to lecture anyone on anything. But I just said, like, I kind of spoke to him, man to man. I said, what do you think that does to your self-esteem? Isn't that just like the realest question you could ask anybody? What do you think that does to your self-esteem as an artist, as a creator? You're the first thing you're doing. I didn't say all this at the time, I don't think, but I'm expanding on it now. The first thing you're going to do is bootleg the actual software that someone had to work very hard to create. And invest a lot of their time and money, and whose livelihood depends on it being properly consumed. The first thing you're going to do is say, F that guy. Yeah, I'll take it because I want it now. And now everything you create after this is sort of a subtle reminder of the fact that you didn't pay for it in the first place. Now, the market or the technological developments in many ways did sort of address piracy in ways that I'm happy to see. I mean, I'd be happier if people wouldn't pirate because of their principles, because of what it is they want to get out of life. But nonetheless, the practical has caught up with the moral to some degree, in that first, a technology, Apple gave us iTunes, which made it so you can get stuff digitally. You don't need to go to the store and pay $20 for a compact disc. You could stay home and get an album for, let's say, $9.99 or less, or a little more, whatever it's going for. And more recently, music streaming became the way that most people consume music, which is, of course, legal. It is lucrative, maybe not as lucrative as buying albums. The best way to support musicians is to buy their music. But nonetheless, there is money. There is a lucrative, I just saw Eminem got 60 billion or some crazy number like that, 60 billion streams on Spotify. Am I exaggerating? I just read it this morning. I think it was like 60 billion streams that the rapper Eminem got on Spotify, which I think is like $100 million. That's pretty good. I could go for 100 million right now. What do you guys think? Can you go for 100 million? Now, someone could always say, yeah, but if not for Spotify, he might have sold ungodly records and made more money, which is probably true. So, but nonetheless, so streaming is a technology that has made it so people are less likely to pirate. They're less incentivized, so to speak, to pirate, and more likely to just go the legal route out of convenience, as well as, I guess convenience and whatever else reason they have to do it. And maybe they want to help out the artist. They want the artist to get paid. I shouldn't say help out. They want the artist to get paid, but maybe they weren't going to do it for $10 an album before, but now that it's basically free, or $10 a month for a subscription, they're more likely to do it. So, so at least the technological advancements have a little bit made piracy a little bit less legal. But I just wish people had more respect. The disrespect that people have for intellectual property, I think, is really a sad commentary on the times we live in. Like I mentioned earlier, people were tweeting, and you saw Ethan Klein in that clip I played earlier talking about this fight. Like, imagine actually paying for this. Yeah, imagine paying for what you want, paying for what it is that you're going to consume. And then you can complain about the fight knowing that you actually paid for it. You're an actual customer who's unsatisfied, rather than a loser who is just demanding the world, hand you something for free. That entertainers not only need to give you great entertainment, but it needs to be free. So I think, again, it hurts you the most when you do this type of thing. The people who behave this way, it is hurting them a lot more than it's hurting me. That I'll tell you. When people tweet out, when Philip DeFranco tweets out, "Oh, prayers to anyone who actually paid for this." This guy, The Quartering, tweeted out, "Imagine actually not watching this for free." I think he unfollowed me on Twitter around the time I was tweeting that, like, Twitter has a right to ban Trump. And I want to see a Venn diagram of people who think piracy is perfectly fine and people who think Trump is entitled to a Twitter account. I'm curious if there's any space between those two circles. I have a feeling it's one circle. These are not smart people. They're unprincipled. And when you come near their livelihood, they freak the F out at you. They melt down if YouTube demonetizes one video. But when it comes to just at whim grabbing someone else's life's work, yeah, don't worry about it. They're corporations. They don't worry about the corporations. By the way, the last time I spoke to Sargon of Akkad, my good friend Sargon, we were on a podcast, on the same podcast at one point. Like, he was leaving as I was entering, and we ended up arguing for a few minutes. And at one point, of course, so his point is, at the time, and still is, I think, that just as John Locke said, when you mix materials together, you have now created something new, right? That sounds like a Lockean thing, which I think we all agree with. When you take raw materials and you create a product, now you've created something new, and that's your property. Wonderful. So Sargon was saying, when you create a YouTube video and build a YouTube channel, that is arguably now your property, and YouTube may not just delete it. So the level of evasion there is too extensive for us to cover right now. But in that same conversation, I mentioned to Sargon, I said, I hope, by the way, you respect intellectual property. I hope you and your dopey friends aren't out there pirating a bunch of movies and music. And Sargon said, "Oh, you know what? With my Steam account and my Netflix, I really see no need to pirate. I just consume things legally now." Like he was giggling, like, yeah, it's convenient. I'll just get it legally. Like it's no big deal to him, right? Like if you were to pirate, it's no big deal. But you know, it's convenient, so I just get it legally. So the same guy who wants all of law to protect his piece of trash YouTube account, right? Who do you think it hurts more, by the way? How many livelihoods do you think are lost when a YouTube channel is terminated versus when a movie is bootlegged? Which one do you think? How many more hungry mouths are going to go unfed because of which one? Just the cognitive dissonance is really something. Just really something. A real sight for sore eyes, I'll tell you. Yeah. So Sargon wants the law to change to protect his YouTube account from getting terminated by YouTube, but at the same time, you know, pirating is no big deal. It does not offend him if you go out and pirate stuff. So there's a lot of different there are a lot of contradictions people live with. By the way, Hugh in the chat is saying that's not what Sargon thinks now. Interesting. If that's true, I'd be curious to see what he thinks now. I know he's evolved for the worse in many ways. Obviously, he's like a full-fledged Republican now, so he's definitely picked up a lot of bad habits on the way. But if he, I don't know specifically what he's changed his mind on, according to you in the chat. So I'm reluctant to accept that. Chris in the super chat with $2.79 Canadian says, for Rucka doing the whole show by himself. Well, thank you for that. And let me mention one more thing before we end this and jump over to Clubhouse. I think one of the as I'm going here roasting everyone that has shown that has apologized for pirating, I'll also point out that I've seen objectivists do this or want to be objectivists, self-identified objectivists. This came up when I was live streaming on my gaming channel, maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember when this was. And I don't remember who it was. So like, you know, YouTube screen names to me are oftentimes I forget. So for all I know, these people I'm recalling could be right here in this chat room, or they could be long gone doing God knows what. So I literally don't remember who it was. But what I do remember is people commenting like, I pirate music if I know the artist doesn't uphold individual rights. And I pirate movies if I know that the owners of it don't believe, the company or the person doesn't uphold individual rights. There's just so much wrong with that. First of all, just the armchair philosophizing. Like I could just like it, that's what libertarians basically do. Again, I'm generalizing. Many libertarians are more honorable than what I just described objectivists saying. But just this whole like, I'm just going to decide, like starting with some arbitrary axiom, like just how it all is going to work. Like, you know, forget the centuries of meticulous study that went into understanding what property actually is. But just, yeah, if that guy doesn't believe in individual rights the way that objectivism demands, then I'm just going to take his stuff. Is that really how life works? Can you live that way? Are you going to walk into a store and say, oh, well, the owner of this supermarket, you know, voted Democrat, so I guess I'm getting some free groceries today. Is that how life works? Are you going to assault somebody? Are you going to rape? What will you not do with this ridiculous chain of reasoning that says, you know, other people's rights are yours to violate if they're not objectivist, which is what these people are basically saying. So these people are losers. I don't recall who it was. It could be someone who's here watching today. It could be some schmo who's gone off and changed their opinion for the better or for the worse. I don't remember who it was, but I remember the expression. And you know what, on a personal note, it was one of the moments when I realized I've created this sort of scene of armchair intellectuals, armchair philosophers who think every question is theirs to answer. I'm here today telling you, like, here's what I've picked at the brain of like actual philosophers on and what I've thought about, and I'm still unsure about, and I'm urging you to investigate further. I'm not just sitting here saying, I can pirate that if they're not objectivists. It's absolutely rationalistic. It's like saying I can rob a bank today because of government regulation. Imagine being stupid enough to try and live with such a ridiculous approach to life. Sounds like a bunch of losers basically rationalizing. So really, if that's how badly you want a pirated movie, Just see where life takes you, whether you're objectivist or anybody else. Just see where life takes you. See what that does to your self-esteem. And good luck. Jesus Christ. That's all I can really say. Now, I'll stop ranting. We have gone over time. Time to jump over to Clubhouse. Thank you all for the very generous super chats. This was a wonderful day for super chats. Thank you, Ethan Klein, for your cameo appearance. And thank you again for watching. We got today at 11 p.m. UK time, which is 6 p.m. Eastern, Troubadour Talks. That's the Kirk Barbera hit show where he talks about literature. And guess who's on it? I am. I spoke to him about Peter Pan. So want to contain your excitement. You're going to get to watch me and Kirk discuss the book, Peter Pan, the book. But we also talk about the movies. We talk about the whole Peter Pan phenomenon, the franchise. And even as a bonus, we even spoke about the Little Mermaid book. Now, if you've ever wanted to see me discuss that, today is your lucky day. Anyway, that is coming up today on this channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. But also, we'll be back here tomorrow, same time for the Daily Objective. Thank you all again. And we're jumping over to Clubhouse now. See you there, and goodbye.
Excellent.